go like this. I mean, yeah, it's a great start.
Formula One world champion and soundman for Channel 4.
Yeah. When you have a battery issue, you know, you just go like this. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, it works.
It
Is
works.
that working? Are you picking up? All good? Yeah. Here we go. I know what you're thinking. You're used to doing 200 miles an hour and it's the British Grand Prix, but this is Britain, this is the Thames, and it's a Henley Regatta. Have you heard of it?
No. What's that?
Oh, it's a big deal here.
Is it?
That basically you sit down and take life a lot slower.
Okay. Let's give it a try.
Let's give it a try. Yeah, I'm not sure you're going to like it, but anyway, welcome.
It's nice and sunny. It's really hot. Hello. It's my
Big fan of yours.
My
Yeah,
fans.
exactly. Essentially, this is
Yeah.
our first proper sit down as Channel 4. I know we see each other
Yeah.
all the time, so what we're going to do is start with the World Championship in Abu Dhabi and then bring it to the British Grand Prix. So there's a bunch of questions in between. So when they give me the okay, so I know racing drivers don't like reminiscing, but you're going to have to do a wee bit of this now. We
We're on
good?
fire.
Okay.
The engine is running, and we're off.
So Max, we're on the Thames. So that direction, you'll arrive in Oxford.
Okay.
This direction, you'll end up in London. So this is a historic piece of waterway here in the UK, and you're at one of the most historic racetracks this weekend at Silverstone. But before we get to that, it's been a while since we sat down with Channel 4 and had a chat with you, and I want to take you right back to Abu Dhabi. You're there, in the car, new tyres, you've got a 7-time world champion in front of you, and you've got one lap to change your history.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking at the time. I mean, the emotions.
Really?
It
Nerve-wracking?
was from. Yeah, I mean that day, and people told me afterwards who shook my hand that I was ice cold, and normally just normal temperature. But that day, I was like, my hand was really cold. Like my dad said it, my girlfriend Kelly said it. So they didn't say anything at the time, but they could feel, of course, there were nerves.
And you felt it yourself as well,
I
or
was
it was
more
subconscious?
tense. Yeah, I was definitely a bit more nervous because you knew that, you know, this was it. The final race, you're going to be first or second. And yeah, even, you know, throughout that race, the emotions went up and down a lot. From initially, of course, negative to suddenly immensely positive. But that final lap, you know, you're there, you're behind, you're with the new tires, but you still need to make the move, you still need to go for it, and you don't know where it's going to happen or even if you have a chance, because you still need to nail that restart. So, you know, to go through all those emotions through that final lap was just crazy. And of course, at one point you realize like you're going to win the race, but then you still need to finish the lap, right? It's still, you can still spin out or do something stupid. And then, of course, when I crossed the line, yeah, everyone was screaming in my ears, of course, on the radio from the pit wall, and I realized that, you know, everything you worked for since I was a little kid, like 4 years old, that was my final dream in F1, because you've won races, you've been in pole position, you have been on the podium in general, you know, so that's all been ticked off. But that final goal was winning the championship, and then to achieve that was, yeah, something really incredible.
It wasn't just about winning a championship, it was one of the most sort of globally divisive championships of the last 30 years. You've got to go back to probably Prost and Senna to relive a moment where people were like, oh, are we really believing what's happening in front of us? So, you know, I take the view that Lewis is 7-time champion. No question, he's quality enough to have deserved to win the championship last year. But you won more races, and you deserve to win that championship. But this is a very divisive championship, isn't it? So do you have the ability to step back and look at that almost like a fan, or do you just go, it's mine, and now I want number 2? You
know, of course, when I'm in the car, I, of course, want to go and win the race, or I want to win the championship. But when you look back at the season in general, just as a fan, I think if he would have won that final race, then people say he's deserved champion. If I would have won, oh, I won. But like, you know, then I think it could have gone both ways, you know. So we both were on it the whole year. We both made it really hard for ourselves, you know. We were really fighting almost every single Grand Prix, but that's, of course, what people like. And I think what made it more special was, of course, 2 different teams fighting, and especially after such a long dominance of Mercedes, to finally have a car up there to try and, you know, beat them. I think it was a very special season, and of course throughout the season you don't even think about it too much, but I think now in the coming years, and maybe even when I retire, you look back at it, and I think it's very special to look back at that year.
So there's the thing, and I did a bit of racing, not at your level.
You did? Well, yes, you did.
In the same formula, but not with the same achievements. It was so intense, and you know, you won your first Grand Prix at 18, you're still a young man to be a world champion. How do you block out the noise, the praise that maybe makes you feel that you can walk on water, which you can try if you like on the Thames?
I can try now, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to drown.
There you go. And the criticism where someone wants to hold your head underwater. How do you deal with that? Is that something that's just, you don't know what you don't know, therefore you're living your life? Or is it something that your father and your mother as racers have said to you, Max, look, you're going to be a champion, and when you are a champion, people are going to praise you and criticize you in equal measures?
My dad never said I was going to be a champion. He was always the opposite. He would tell me I was going to be a truck driver or like a bus driver.
Really?
Yeah, because he was always, in a good way, I think, you know, putting the pressure, but making me realize that what I was doing at the time was not enough. You know, I was winning my races and stuff, but he said it's not enough to be successful in Formula One, because it's not, you can't rely on your talent only to be the best. And I think slowly, of course, throughout my go-karting career, you start to understand that and start to work harder for it. And I think still, to my dad's liking, I think all the way to Formula One, I still didn't work hard enough in his eyes, because I have a bit more of a relaxed personality compared to him in terms of how I approach a weekend, or how I deal with setbacks or just incidents, let's say like that. But I think that prepared me in a way very well for criticism or just positive noises, because I didn't really care. I was just very neutral. Like, I don't care if it's negative, and I don't really care if it's positive. You know, because it doesn't bring me anything. If I think I can walk on water, I'm gonna become arrogant. And when it's very negative, you're just gonna be upset and be angry at everyone. So it's better to just be in the middle and forget about both sides and just focus on what you have to do and what you can control, and that's what's happening in the car.
So that's interesting when you acknowledge that you don't want to become arrogant with it. You know, you want to focus on racing, you love racing, you want to win as many Grand Prix as you can, but you've achieved your goal. The first time I realized that not everyone likes me is when you read the criticism where people go, oh, he's an idiot, he doesn't know how to drive. And you have to adapt to being in the public eye. I think as race fans, whoever you support, that makes sense to you. But of course, if you are a Lewis fan, that means you're not a Max fan.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So how do you deal with that? How aware are you of that?
Of course, you know, when you are the one fighting their favorite driver, it becomes a bit more intense, right?
Yeah.
Because
it's personal.
A Lewis fan doesn't really care about someone who's finishing P18.
Yeah.
But it becomes a little bit more heated when you are the direct rival, but that's fine. But for me, I shouldn't adapt myself to what a fan likes, right? Because I'm me, and I'm not going to change because then you're fake. And if somebody doesn't like me at the end of the day, that's fine. I mean, everyone has different personalities or thinks differently about a person, and I'm the same, of course. You know, I like people, I dislike people, but that's life. And at the end of the day, you don't need to live with everyone around you. Like, everyone has their own life and deals with their own stuff, and that's how I go about it as well. And I just focus on my job, and I love racing and I love winning, and of course you need luck with that as well, with having the right car and the right people around you. But yeah, I also don't really think about it too much. How I don't picture myself into a fan of someone else, another driver, how he thinks about me, because it's just a bit of wasted energy as well.
So you're very focused on where you use your energy. And one thing that, you know, having spent time with you away from the racetrack, you are very grounded, you are very focused on home and spending time at home. So do you think that is what gives you the energy then to go and attack the circuit? Because the last guy who went up against Lewis Hamilton and beat him, he was so exhausted he retired.
I think it would have been a bit weird if I would retire at 24, but no, I mean, everyone is different in their private life and how they recharge or, you know, get their energy back to go racing. For me, you know, whatever happens in F1 shouldn't involve or disturb your private life, because for me that's two separate things. So let's say if you have a negative F1 race, it shouldn't shouldn't come back home and then spread negative energy around. So for me, that's two different things. And also, F1 is such a short time of your life, hopefully, that I want to do well in that space of time. But at the other end, like if it doesn't work out, or it's shorter than you would think or hope, then that's it. There are many other opportunities in life as well to do. So for me, I think that also kind of relaxes me.
It is working out. You're the current Formula One World Champion. You're leading the Formula One World Championship after what was a very difficult start to the year. The swing in points has been remarkable. So the psychology of how you deal with that, the frustration of the opening races versus where you are right now, and of course the flip of that is your rival and someone you've raced against for a long time, and I'm not sure he's a friend, but certainly a racing colleague, Charles Leclerc. He's gone from the high of leading to the disappointment of now trailing you in the championship. So that psychology, that journey that you're on, is it something that you've learned something about yourself during the journey, or you just take it as race by race?
I mean, experience in F1, but also in go-karting. Things can change very quickly, and of course when you have retirements, when you're fighting for a title, you cannot have them. And that's why it was very critical in the beginning. We cannot have retirements if we want to fight for the championship. Luckily for us, of course, it also happened to our competition. But from now onwards, you cannot rely on that, because people will learn, people will improve their product, and you have to score points every single weekend. Of course, you always hope for the best, score maximum amount of points, but you also have to settle for whatever it is if you can't win. And that's what I've learned over the years of Formula One as well. Sometimes I went a bit too aggressive, or you make a mistake, you lose all the points you have. So, yeah, it's just racing experience. Because I only did 1 year in F3 before I got to Formula One. But at that time, when I was about to sign in F1, my dad also asked me that. Are you sure? Are you sure about making that jump to F1? I said yes, because I want to be there, and even if I make mistakes there, at least I'm in. And then we'll see what happens after. So we went for it, of course, and luckily it's all working out quite well. But yeah, it was a big learning curve for sure.
I want to talk a little bit about the battle with Lewis. It got pretty intense. It seemed to become not just between the two of you on track, where clearly there was a crash at Silverstone, where 1 year on from that moment there was the coming together in Monza, and then of course that incredible end to the season. So it wasn't just about you guys, it also got quite intense between Toto and Christian.
Yeah.
I've not seen that for some time, that level of intensity. So how much of that is a personal thing because of the difference in age between yourself and Lewis? Because it seems a lot more amicable, the battle you have with Charles Leclerc, the man that's most likely to challenge you for the championship this year.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily it was between the drivers, it was mainly because a complete different approach between the teams last year and this year, and probably there's a bit more respect between the two teams as well this year. I think that helps a lot. And for sure, I know Charles for a longer time, because we basically grew up together throughout racing and go-karting and all the way to Formula One. But I always had I still have a lot of respect for Lewis, and we always got on well, and also today, as racing drivers, you come together, but you also very quickly forget and just move on, because that's, the amount of times I've crashed with Charles in the past.
Oh, you did in karting?
Yeah, we did, but now we can laugh about it, so it just, racing drivers, they of course look at themselves. We want to do everything we can to win a race, and I think what is also the positive side about racing drivers, that we can forget very quickly and we just move on and just go to the next. Luckily, we also have a lot of races for that. But yeah, this year it seems all a bit calmer, and I just hope it stays like that, and we can just have great races.
It is incredible, the ability of sports people to turn the page and move on. But I do want to take you back to Silverstone last year, because that was a very emotional moment for the history of the sport. It was a huge crash for yourself, ended up being a pivotal moment in the championship, with Lewis coming back through and getting the success. Was that something where you looked at that moment and thought, this is getting personal, or you just saw it as another race where actually, instead of getting a non-finish, it was a big crash and you were taken off to the medical centre? A
lot of points lost, a lot of damage as well to the car. I lost an engine, so that eventually also gave me an engine penalty, so there were a lot of consequences with that with that crash. And you know, at the time I thought, you know, it's not really personal. I just didn't like the way the team mainly was celebrating it and things they were saying. Not my team, of course, the other team. But
so you would have done things differently today. You believe you would acted differently? If...
I don't think it would have happened like that anyway. But yeah, I think it would have been a bit weird to celebrate like that. But anyway, you know, could talk about it forever. I think at the time it was not nice, but at the other hand, you know, we were very motivated and fueled for the rest of the season to, you know, give it everything we had, because it was the first opportunity to really fight for a championship, and we were in good spirits even with that crash. You know, we rebuilt the car. We have the best mechanics out there, and we go for it again.
Now, I know when I spoke to you directly after the World Championship victory in Abu Dhabi, you said, I've achieved my goal. You were there with your father, you were there with your manager, and you were saying, if it never happens again, we've achieved what we set out to achieve. But here you are, you're doing it again, you're leading the championship. So are the goals different this time? Is the expectation different? Do you think if you're able to convert and be a two-time world champion, the feeling will be different? Or how are you approaching?
I think it will be less emotional if it would happen, yeah. Because it's the same with the first race win. My first race win was still the most emotional win of all of them. Of course, forget the World Championship win, but all the other ones, they've never been as emotional as that one, because that's the first time you get to taste something like that, which is such a difficult thing to achieve in Formula One. Yeah, I think it will be different, but I also prefer not to really think about that yet. We're on a good run, but we have to keep it going.
You're on a great run, leading the championship. We're approaching race 10, British Grand Prix. Clearly for us as Channel 4 and someone that's raced there and won there, this is the biggest weekend for us. Do you see that and feel that because of the team being based half an hour from Silverstone? Or for you, is it just another race with a big name?
Well, I know, of course, it's closer to base, but for me it's just a great weekend because I really like the track. You know, it's a really cool layout to drive, so an F1 car really comes alive around this track in all the high-speed corners. So I'm just looking forward to driving the track and trying to have a good result.
You won the sprint race, but you've not won the Grand Prix because of the incident we just spoke about.
Yeah, I mean, I've won the 70th anniversary race.
Okay.
So, I mean, I technically won already at Silverstone. So
I'm not taking it away.
There were no fans. So.
Yeah, I'm not going to take that away. That was, absolutely a great victory.
It counts as a race win. So.
It does, absolutely, yep. You know, I stood on the podium at Le Mans, even though I got disqualified. I still count it as a victory. So, the approach for this weekend, it's a different feel. There's going to be 145,000 people there on Sunday. It's the biggest spectators they've ever had at the Grand Prix. Formula One's booming right now. It's a good time to be a Grand Prix driver.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's always really cool to see all the fans. And you know, motorsport, the history around here in England it's crazy. So I think for us, all of us, basically all the drivers, we really enjoy coming here.
You're leading the World Championship. You're with Red Bull Racing. You've signed a multi-year contract, and it's actually quite unusual. You've signed for multiple years to stay with the team. Charles Leclerc has signed multiple years with Ferrari. That never really happened in the past. What was the stimulus? And you went early. What was it that made you go, right, this is the team that I want to stay with for the majority of my career?
The relationship I have within the team with all the people. You know, you need to be able to be yourself as well and be happy at what you're doing and where you're doing it at. And all of that, you know, clicked. And of course, our goal was to win a championship. We did that. And I believe in the people who are already at Red Bull, who are coming into Red Bull. And yeah, I really believe that we can be successful for a while, you know, and that's why I committed for such a long time.
You've never been controversial with your teammates. You've always just got on with what you're doing. But there does seem a real sort of camaraderie there with Checo. He's a more experienced teammate. Does that help sort of carry the burden, if you like, in developing the car? Or that's your teammate right now?
Well, I get on really well with Checo, and you know, he's a nice guy. He's been in the paddock, of course, for a long time, but never my teammate. And I think already last year we really connected well, which I think is also really nice for the team, on and off track. And we want the same thing from the car as well, so that's always a lot nicer for the whole team, you know, to work with, that you're always looking in the same direction. And yeah, I'm really happy. I never expected it to be this good, to be honest, but yeah, it's it's always very nice that it turns out to be like this.
Your relationship with GP, your engineer, you're like an old married couple. You know,
No.
he stays so calm when he's telling you, Max, focus. When you're going, this is not right, that's not right, because the emotion in the car is what it is. And then you have the lighter moments where you're kind of joking with each other during a Grand Prix. So I'm always fascinated by the personal relationships. Is that part of something you've stipulated going through, that you want him to be your engineer, or how has that developed in the way it has?
Yeah, I got to Red Bull and they said, this is your race engineer, and I was like, okay, well, we'll just get on with it. And it was my first weekend, and of course that was already a crazy weekend. And since then, you know, we always work together. And what I think is very important is with a race engineer, you don't even need to say anything. He knows exactly what you want or what you need from a car, and that he can see that already from the way I'm driving the car. And that over the years has developed really well. So yeah, for sure for me, I cannot see myself, let's say, without GP on my side as an engineer, because it is super important, you know, to have that good connection and click basically to, you know, to get all the performance out. And I do have to say sometimes the Italian side comes out a bit, which I like, because then he gets triggered a bit and then, you know, he's on fire. I like that.
You raced a lot in Italy in karting, so you've experienced that over the years.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. And I think it's good because, you know, he should be able to tell me off and I should be able to tell him off. And, you know, not many people actually appreciate that, but I always said that from the start, that's how I like to work. And he seems to appreciate it as well. And afterwards as well, you know, we can laugh about it and, you know, just enjoy.
I find that interesting because a lot of people might assume once you become a champion, no one's going to criticize your driving, but he would look at the data and go, Max, what are you doing there? Your brake application is...
But that's also what I want from him. Like, I mean, if he's not doing that anymore, then at one point, you know, you will start to miss the little details, which at the end of the day will make you good or successful, you know. So I demand that has to be said. Because you're never perfect. You never will be perfect. So you can always improve.
British Grand Prix, you're driving for a British team, although under an Austrian flag. Of course, there's a lot of support for the British drivers, Lewis, George, Lando. How much does that affect when you go around and do the driver parade and you see all the Union Jacks? There'll of course be a lot of Dutch army there, you know, there's a lot of support for Red Bull generally. But do you feel that you're slightly to one side in terms of support here? Do you feel it's more for Lewis? How does that affect?
Actually, it's definitely more for Lewis, but that's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, I need to do the performance on the track, and I hope I have a competitive car and I can just focus on my job on the track and just create a good show, you know, for everyone out there.
What's your expectations? You get a lot of simulation tools. You've been 9 Grand Prix already this year. Ferrari have been blindingly quick in qualifying, but you've had the pace in the race, which is where clearly it's important. What would the predictions suggest going forward into the weekend? Mercedes have been coming back, and for the Mercedes fans watching Channel 4, are they going to be closer to you? Are they going to be challenging?
I do think they will be closer because they've always been very competitive in high speed so far the whole season, and not that competitive at low speed. But of course, naturally, this track is more about high speed. So yeah, I heard of course they're also coming with quite a bit of an update. So naturally that will bring them a bit closer. And between us and Ferrari, yeah, for sure. You know, in qualifying they are always super quick and hard to beat. But then again, this is a very high wear track for the tires because of all the energies, you know, you're putting in the tire and all the high speed corners. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the cars are going to behave on the tires again throughout the race.
I remember when I was racing, I would get to about halfway through the Formula 1 season and I'd be mentally tired, I'd be exhausted because I was having to work beyond my talent to try and compete. How are you feeling? Race 10, are you
I'm
feeling...
good for now. I think it's good to have that little break in the, let's say, the middle.
Yeah.
Because it is like, there is a lot of driving, a lot of racing, a lot of races, but for the moment everything is feeling good. And also, I mean, if you're on a good run, that helps naturally.
It's so peaceful, isn't it, being on the water?
It's nice. I enjoy like having basically the day on the boat. I don't like having a boat myself, but just for the day out, I enjoy it. This is nice. It reminds me also a bit of back home, you know, being on the lake or whatever. Like just
a lot of waterways in Holland, isn't there? So yeah.
Yeah, a bit on the river.
I actually find it quite romantic.
You got a little
Do you mind if I snuggle in? Just a wee 40 winks.
Yeah. We can do this in Monaco as well.
We can. We talked about your relationship with your engineer, we spoke about your relationship with Checo. You also have a good relationship with the two senior people of the team. You've got Helmut Marko representing Red Bull and Mr. Mateschit's interests, and then you've got Christian Horner, someone that I actually raced against way back in the day. The fact that he's a racer, the fact that Helmut's a racer, does that help your relationship with them?
I think so, and I think also for the whole team it's very positive because he understands our point of view, and also he's a great motivator within the team. He's there for anyone, you know, if they have issues or whatever, you know, he will always talk to them and or at least find out as well and just make sure everyone is feeling good. And you know, he's a great talker as well, and I think that's very important as a team boss to have. So yeah, I get on really well with him. I know him, of course, now for quite a few years, and we've had a lot of well, let's say good moments, and of course a few little bad moments, but that's part of a relationship in general. And yeah, it's really enjoyable to work with Christian, and yeah, I think it's always very positive that he comes onto the radio after the race, because that normally means we've done a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. He normally reminds you you've just won a Grand Prix.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you, I know you're not really tracking social media, and that's not something that's a particular motivation for yourself, but is there a misperception out there that people come up to you occasionally and say, oh, I didn't know this about you, or I didn't like that about you? Is there something that you ever felt that, well, I don't understand why that misperception's out there?
Well, that might be. I mean, of course, sometimes you can be portrayed in a way by other platforms or whatever, you know, they put you down and they don't really know you, and they don't really know me personally. And yes, for sure, people might think about me in a certain way, but that's, at the end of the day, I mean, that's fine. Of course, you know, you don't always get the opportunity to get more time with me privately, but I don't, you know, people sometimes think I'm a bit arrogant, but I think I'm just very straightforward, and I know what I want, and I will do anything I can, you know, to get to that point. I don't think that's arrogance. It's just really like I'm committed. I love the sport. I love racing, and that's what I grew up with as well. My whole family, my dad, my mom, everyone was involved. So, yeah, I think when you're really just committed to something, yeah, you just really on it. You really are going for your goal, and I don't think that has to do with arrogance, because I know I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. I know, you know, that I constantly want to improve as well as a driver. So, yeah. Just take it, you know, you just move on with it.
I tell my 13-year-old who's racing karts that he has to be a student of the industry, and he's got to think about it when he goes to sleep at night, and he's going to think about it when he wakes up in the morning. Is that something that resonates with yourself, or is your natural talent so much that you don't need to do that?
No, you have to live for the sport. I mean, for sure, you need to know everything about it, even in history as well. And my dad, you know, also just the mechanical side of it, I think is very important, that you at least, you know, you don't need to be an engineer, otherwise, you know, you can study for it, but at least that you know the basics about it, so that you can talk to your engineer about certain kind of things or what you can work on. And yeah, for sure, I mean, but also if you're really passionate about it, it should come by itself, you know, you should want to learn that by yourself. And yeah, I mean, of course it helps if you have a dad, like, knowing a lot about it, but sometimes my dad would tell me to shut up because I was just asking him too many questions about it, but I guess that's a good thing.
And your mother, she was a successful kart racer as well, so does she ever try and give you some driving advice, or a long time since she did that?
My mom never really gave me any driving advice, but she was always a very loyal supporter, of course. I think she always got very nervous before every race I was doing, but I think it's nice that at least, you know, I'm not talking in like very basic language to her, you know, I can really just talk about it in quite a specific way, and she understands, and that's nice, I think.
Yeah. Well, Max, it's been a privilege to spend some time with you ahead of the British Grand Prix. I know you're used to travelling at 200 miles an hour. I hope the few knots of the Thames was not frustrating for you.
It was very lovely.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We wish you all the best for the weekend. If you would like to leave...
I'm gonna make my move. Thank you very much.
I'll see you at the track. In the meantime, Captain, Silverstone, please.